Greetings, my friends. Welcome, welcome, welcome to the Let's Get Gritty podcast with Dr. India White. I'm thrilled to be here among you guys. I know school has started and we are still moving forward in our communities and just in our everyday lives. And I want to wish the best to all of you, especially you educators, you business leaders that are out here thriving and doing what you need to do to make a difference in society. Before we get started with the show, I want to first make some announcements. First off, if you want to be featured on the Let's Get Gritty podcast, please email me your photo in a bio at india.white.123@gmail.com. Also, the Let's Get Gritty podcast can be featured on Swain Girl Media Channel on Fire Stick, so you'll be able to see episodes of that. I would like to also invite you guys to follow me on social media. So my Facebook is Miss India White. LinkedIn is The India White. Twitter is Indie Speak and Teach. Instagram is Indie238. And YouTube is India White 123. And TikTok is Dr. India White, Dr. India White, that is. So with that said, give me a follow. Thank you to those that have. I mean, you know how social media is. It fluctuates. So it is what it is. I also want to invite each of you to check out my website when you have a chance, www.india-white.com for books, blogs, and to schedule me at your next speaking or coaching event, however I can support you and your leadership. Now, again, thanks for being a part of this podcast. The goal here is to talk about grit and to talk about other topics aligned with grit. And since I am, particularly in education and all about, leadership, I want to talk about different things to help build different things. So the first thing I want to talk about is how can we, when you're thinking about grit and you're thinking about, first off, what is grit and what do we do to build grit? I want to talk about taking that idea and that concept and developing grit into a community to where you have a gritty community. Why is this imperative? I think when you look at the data and seeing that it's going to take hundreds of years to close the achievement gap, and then on top of that, you're looking at proficiency rates that are tanking right now in particular states nationwide. I mean, students just aren't meeting the cut. They need support, and the support is going to come from their communities. I think it's always heartbreaking when, you have students that are, amazing athletes and in their own right. They've accomplished so much, but then yet those students aren't eligible to play for college because they didn't meet the GPA. I think it's also tragic that you have, crime in certain communities and, with just so many different things that take place. So when looking at this, we need to definitely start honing in on communities and how can we build a gritty community so that we can raise civilized adults and, leaders that we can contribute back into society. So with that said, I first want to start out. I want to talk about grit. What is grit and what does it say as far as like having grit in communities and things like that? I always tell you guys the definition of grit. You can look at it through Dr. Angela Duckworth's work on grit. It is the passion and perseverance to obtain long-term goals, which is definitely needed whenever you're talking about just building a community and you're talking about how to develop passion, and things like that for your students, because if you don't do it, who will? These students have so much that takes place regarding just temptations in life and crime and social media. There's so many different things. So the best thing that we can do is to figure out a plan for building grit in our communities. Focus on how can we build grit in our communities. I talked about how grit, Dr. Duckworth's definition of grit is passion and perseverance. But we need to definitely have a culture of grit in our communities. And why is this imperative? Because students, if we have 2 million plus students dropping out of school, where are they losing their way, and why are there not people in the community to catch them? I find sometimes that people in the community are under the assumption that teachers do it all. I know some parents believe that you can send a student to school in kindergarten, not ever having read to the child, not ever working with the child on their numbers and on their enunciations, and so it creates a gap of academic achievement, and it also creates a huge concern where students unfortunately are behind where they should be in the process of being developed into a young child. We need people in the community to help support, whether it's single parents, or if it's parents that work all day all night. We need people in the community to come together and to support. Not only that, we need to stick together, because we are trying to build something of worth, something that's healthy, something that is going to be positive to our society. With that said, some ways that you can help out with developing a gritty community. Remember, it's all about having passion. Some things that you can do personally is being active in schools. Can you volunteer at a school? Does the school have volunteer hours? If so, where do you go to find that? You might have to go to the school's website to find that, or go down to the school board, or go to the school district office and figure out how can you get your hands dirty with some school, activities. Can you attend school board meetings, and raise awareness in a civilized fashion about some things that you would like to see happen differently in your community? Can you attend HOA meetings? Can you, give back and contribute to your local space? Another thing that you can do to help with communities and building grit is helping a neighbor. Does your neighbor need help? Are they a new family? Are they elderly? Are they, out of town a lot and they might need your support? What can you do to be proactive, to give back, and to develop grit in your community? I do think it is an attitude. Grit is an attitude. Yes, it's a mindset, but it's an attitude that you choose to take to be proactive and to have passion to contribute to a common cause. And I think that if you're wanting a community that's clean, can you volunteer at a community event where you guys get together and decide to clean the community? Can you help mow grass for people? Can you help pick up leaves? Can you help watch some children? Can you be the person on the playground watching and monitoring students as they're having a good time after school? What can you do? Can you make sweet potato pies or pecan pies or pumpkin pies during Thanksgiving for your neighbors that might not have had the opportunity to cook? I mean, what can you do to contribute to your community? Another thing I want you to think about is, can you help grandparents that are raising children? I was listening to a very sad clip that went viral of an 8-year-old that, unfortunately, this was in Detroit, but her parents were shot dead, and she's on the phone with police trying to tell them where she was located. It was a very sad situation. And now she's being raised by her grandparents. And it just makes me think, who in the community is coming to the cause of young children like that, a young children that they are being raised by grandparents? If you see that there's a need, or maybe your child plays a sport and you notice that there are some situations like this, can you lend a helping hand? If you have the means necessary to maybe watch that child, take that child on play dates, help provide resources, for the family so that they can be stable within the community. Another thing is, can you give back? Do they need, can you explore ways to distribute resources in your community that is equitable? Can you support those that can use it? So a grandmom in need, a granddad in need, a single parent in need, can you give back? Can you work with the community foundations? Can you work with the YMCA? Can you work at the turkey giveaway for Thanksgiving? Can you help with giving away toys for Christmas? Can you help with lighting up the neighborhood for Christmas? Or I don't know, Halloween. Like what can you do to give back in a way that can support equitable causes that are already taking place? Sometimes this does happen. Sometimes there are food drives, clothing drives, things like that, and they need support. They need all hands on deck. So how can you help to make it where it's an equitable situation where people that are receiving resources is allocated in a way that it's distributed um, uh, in a way that is fair and without bias for all families to contribute and to benefit from. And also, another thing to think about is when you're talking about children, can you attend sporting events in the community? So, is there a high school game that you can go to? Is there an elementary event going on, like a band event, or are the students partaking in cheerleading? Are they doing volleyball? Like what are they doing that you can attend some of the sporting events and give back of your time just to be in the crowd to let them know, hey, we're here for you. You know, I want to give shout out to Sarasota County because they are big on this, Hillsborough too, but Sarasota, oh my goodness, some of their home games, football games, oh my word, Venice High School, Sarasota High School, so many of them, they pack house. They don't play, and they are a supportive community, and I have to give them a shout out because they do it so well. If you see what they do down there, so what can we do to support different sporting events and whatnot for students? Another thing I thought of too was, can you support celebratory events in the community, whether that's like a Christmas parade or a sporting events parade? I know Gainesville, Florida, they do great with the Gators, and they have a Gator parade. Go Gators. And so does your community have various things like that? Do they have school drives? Do they, what do they do where you can get together and help parents and help families? Because I'm going to be honest with you, when you're trying to develop a great community, we need strong families, we need fathers, we need those strong uncles, we need strong leaders, and we really do need to focus on the family element and strengthening the family, especially those that have all family members in the household, really kind of praising that work, because it is a lot to have that strong family element. And we need to definitely give kudos to all those fathers and husbands out there that are doing their thing and making it happen, and in the traditional family setting. And then also just those that are just coming together, parents and guardians, to do their best to support communities and to make it a strong element. We need to definitely continue to stand behind those efforts, because these efforts are the things that make our children the strongest and support them the most when they're out here doing their best to perform for us. And so, I think back on, my upbringing, I was not as fortunate to have everything I needed in my community. And sometimes I think like, wow, what could have made the difference? I think having more traditional family supports out there, having more fathers out there, having more uncles in the picture, having more moms get together, having times where the moms in the community would get together and meet, or the fathers get together. I don't know, I think having something in place where this strong family dynamic is celebrated and supported, and that families hold each other accountable and they help each other raise the children. It takes a village to raise a family. And so sometimes, a parent might not have all of the means necessary to do what it takes to raise those children. So who in the community that might have a stable home can, keep a third eye out on that child down the street that they know might be dabbling in some things that they shouldn't, or, they might be in the wrong crowd. Can they, maybe speak a positive word of encouragement or give some wisdom in the right spirit towards these children, because children need their communities more than we realize. And so, when you're thinking about, building grit, it takes passion. Why should we be passionate about this? We should be passionate because we only have one community. And if we slack on this, then that means that our communities can go down the drain. And then what? What happens to our children, right? So it's one of those things that we've got to do what we can to continue to build, strong communities. because I think that if you're trying to close the achievement gap, that's where it's going to come into place. Is it's when you're able to say, okay, to help Johnny down the street, we're going to, on Saturdays, we're going to sacrifice, get together for Johnny or for whoever in our communities. And so, with that said, um, I want to kind of talk about a situation here where um, there is a contributor who actually talked about building grit in a community or building families and things like that. And I want to just share my screen so that you guys can see. So here, if you look here, it's talking about grit and building community for our children. And so we're just going to read this to talk about it. It says, when the doorbell rang on Saturday morning, I wasn't expecting anyone and wasn't looking forward to any interruptions. I had plans and important stuff to do. We've all been there, right? I went to the door and instantly had to restrain my bouncy pup, who simply can't hear children's voices without wanting to join the party. And it was a party. 3 little girls hovering in the age to 10 group bobbed and weaved outside my door. One wore a pink tutu over her jeans, and the other had glitter on her cheeks, remnants of whatever previous game they had been playing. Cheeks all aflush with excitement, the eldest, who had been elected to or simply commandeered the role of spokesgirl, quickly explained, "We're playing a game with another team of kids, and we're trying to see how much silly stuff we can trade in the next 20 minutes. This is what we're trading," she said exuberantly, holding a half-used bottle of Bubbles liquid. "Well, my house is full of pretty silly stuff, so give me a minute," I said, not certain of what I might dig up in the back of my office, which looks like in another light could be called a catch-all. As soon as I entered the room, I saw the grail and grabbed it. It was a vintage fake Christmas corsage, all turquoise and white and feathery, that my beautiful invented daughter-in-law had affixed to my gift this year. I hadn't been sure what to do with it after the initial amusement of the Christmas morning, but I liked it because it reminded me of my kids. I left it out on my supply cabinet, where it gave me a brief smile whenever I saw it. Now, I think this is nice because she is digging in her personal space, her personal belongings, to help children in the community to continue their imagination and their exploration and their innovation, because she understands it's not just about the moment. It's about building character in children. It's about building them and building their experiences. And so she will be able to say she had a little print, a little nugget in their lives. How much more can we do as children come to our doors and they're wanting us, to help them? Maybe they want to cut our grass. Maybe they want to, come and hang out, or have their children come hang out with theirs, or with them, and our children hang out with them, or whatever. What can we do to support our children as they are evolving into these little awesome rock stars that they are? So let's keep reading. So she says, perfect. And my son and daughter-in-law would love that it became a part of this game. Yeah. I took it to the door and presented it to the girls, who were appropriately impressed. They thought it was really pretty, but agreed with me that it was also very silly. So they gave me their bubbles. I turned over the corsage and they bounced back down the driveway. I heard them shrieking and giggling as they galloped to the next neighbor's house. See that community? There are so many levels of pleasure for me in this little vignette. First is just the happiness of being in the presence of giggly little girls with that mischievous light in their eyes. I don't know these girls' names, but I see them plenty, playing in their driveway, bopping up, down, or bopping around the neighborhood. In their shouts and cries, I hear the echo of my own girlhood, when my sisters and I were the ones tearing around, inventing adventures and challenges, in trouble with the twins across the street. Now, listen, I love this because not only does it develop that sense of community and that sense of belonging in the neighborhood. It's bringing back great memories for her. And this makes me think of, in our neighborhood, we used to play kickball, which I don't know, kickball's outdated now, but that was like the thing we did. We played kickball, and I don't know, like, we loved it. We need to get back to the basics of having families come together to support our children. And I do think that we've done our best with social media. We've done our best with everything, TikTok, YouTube. People have gotten so creative and so innovative, but unfortunately, I think that we've lacked in the area of bonding with families, getting back to the basics, back to those old school ways where there were parents in the home, families in the home, and we were all just together. That family element. And I think that even if you don't have a traditional family, you can still be just as creative with the people in your lives, the people in your support group, to create something beautiful. I mean, I shout out to my mentor who, she helps her little niece, and she takes her around and helps, just the different things, or her, I don't know if she's niece or her little cousin, but she helps her, and she takes her to different violin practices and things like that, because it's community, and that's what we need to do. I love that the neighborhood is safe and friendly and full of families, and that the kids are mostly sweet and appropriately managed. I love that this couple across the street plays with their children and lets them play outdoors or insists that they go outside. I actually get to see them. I love that. They aren't holed up indoors in front of electronic devices. They're outside sharing music of their laughter and the familiarity of their sibling fusses, just like children of old, like, say, of my generation. The young uns in my neighbor, or the young uns, I guess, in my neighborhood have a freedom that I think is increasingly rare. I wish all the world, literally, all the adults everywhere, could stop whatever else they're doing and devote ourselves to making life sweet and safe and free for the children. Not to make the children the center of attention, which makes them narcissistic and nuts, but to make the foundation of value of every single community that the children are getting whatever they need to be healthy, smart, and free. Just that context would give a rise to the action that would nourish our world and correct so much environmental, social, and political lunacy. Isn't it strange that such simple desire can be viewed, um, by so many as far as too lofty a goal? What I love about our grit community is that, um, I honestly believe that we are engaged in accomplishing precisely this. We are committed to diverse communities and families in which we get along, and to raising our food and conducting our businesses in a way that has worked in this community for generations and has the promise of workability for generations to come. They don't know it, but those are the gritty girls across the street. So I think that this is beautiful, because it really does highlight the power of coming together for a common cause, which at the end of the day, a huge common cause for all of us is our children. You might not be writing a research paper, you might not be writing a book or going to speak on different topics, but you can, offer the children a time to, in your community, you can gather them up and help them play, teach them a game, help them learn how to jump rope, help them, with a recycling day or clean up the neighborhood day. There's so many different things that we can help our children with. We can teach them the concept of paying it forward. We can be there for them to motivate them and speak great things over them, when we see them coming down the street, to encourage them to, continue to do their work and to continue to keep their grit. When you see a child that is down in the dumps, maybe they didn't do as well on a test, you can encourage them and motivate them to keep grit, to keep going, to keep moving forward. The reason why I'm making this is because I just want every adult to know that you are needed. We need you in our communities. You make the world of a difference. And so many times we'll say, oh gosh, I'm just so tired of, student A going through this, or, I'm hearing about the crime, or I'm hearing about this. Well, I want to challenge you and say, find out what can you do to make the difference. Get quiet, get alone, Figure it out, because you do matter. Your voice matters, your presence matters, your influence matters. If you have a business, maybe you can donate some things, or, you can give some services to children at maybe one day a week, or, you could do something to help, to contribute to building a fabulous community, because you only have one community. And so we had to do all that we can to continue to support our community, because at the end of the day, we're protecting our children. So with that said, thanks so much for letting me come in here to talk about this. And I think that, if you have any ideas of how you can be involved, whether that's through community foundations or volunteering at the schools or whatnot, feel free to share that out. You can email me with some ideas, or if you're looking for other ideas, I don't mind collaborating. But I think that, all of us have the tools necessary that we need to help our children and to help our communities. And as we do this together, we will continue to close the achievement gap, which is so needed in our society. So with that said, I want to thank you for coming on to watch the Let's Get Gritty podcast with Dr. India White. I want to remind you that the podcast, it's going to be featured on Swain Girl Media channel. Thank you, Precious, for that. I also want to remind you to please follow me on social media. Those are my social media handles again, for those that might have logged in late. Miss India White is Facebook. LinkedIn is The India White. Twitter is Indie Speak and Teach. Instagram is Indie238, and YouTube is India White 123. If you're wanting to be featured on the Let's Get Gritty podcast, please send me an email with your photo and bio at india.white.123@gmail.com. Please check out my website for blogs, books, and to schedule me for your next event. I do have some events coming up. Super excited about speaking for the IES Summit, which is a educational with the U.S. Department of Education event, where we'll be talking about various topics, from not just equity, but also talking about, just different ways to help students in various grade levels. I'm honored to speak with some of my other colleagues, and we'll be speaking, I believe my day is September 19th. So log into that. That is with the Department of Education. And also there are other events that I'm honored to be a part of as well. And if you are speaking or whatever, feel free to tag that, feel free to share that information, so that we can also celebrate you as well. And so with that said, guys, I'm so thankful that you joined me on the Let's Get Gritty podcast, and I'm just here to serve. So with that said, take care. Until next time, stay gritty.